Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Welcome back to the Radiate Wellness Podcast, where today we radiate peace and acceptance with Melinda Lee, who is the author of Rebel Hugger, a cross-country journey to self-love, one hug at a time. Melinda is an adventurous soul who believes in the power of hugs. It's her life mission to create a world where everyone feels a sense of worthiness and belonging. She's a certified practitioner of healing touch for animals and is Bear Coach certified, which I want to circle back on that because I'm intrigued. Sure. She wrote her debut memoir, Rebel Hugger, as a love letter to herself and all of humanity. She currently resides in Atlanta, Georgia, with her 2 teenage boys, 2 mischievous cats, and 1 exasperated chihuahua. Hello, Melinda. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, Rebel Hugger. That sounds right up my alley. Okay, but first, before we crack into your book, I want to know about this BARE, B-A-R-E certification. What is that?
It's empowering coaching tools and techniques that I learned from Susan Hyatt. And she started it as a very anti-diet coaching system. Really what it turned into is an anti-patriarchal coaching system. So it's really all about empowerment and discovering who we are at the core and focusing less on what we're eating, like how we are conditioned to show up in the world, and focusing more on who am I and how do I want to show up in the world. It's really beautiful.
Oh, I love that. So what does the BARE refer to?
She has some acronyms for it, but really it was just what she came up with because it was catchy and it fit with the title of the book. And honestly, I don't even remember what the acronyms were because she had stopped using them so long ago.
Oh, fair enough. But it has to do with, embodiment and being who you really are meant to be. And I love, stick it to the patriarchy aspect of it as well.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the coaching is really focusing on pleasure. So when it comes to like a lot of us want to change our health and this is really where it started from, change our health or our bodies. And it's a focus on what foods bring me pleasure and feeling into our body of what foods our body wants to eat. Because when we're not struggling and stressed about eating the right things or focusing on this diet or that diet, our body knows what it needs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I teach a class called Vibration of Food, and much of that is what is the vibration that we're putting into our food? Am I scared about it? Am I worried that I'm not pure enough? Or, oh my gosh, I really love this, but it's not organic.
Yeah.
Right. But when we do that, we're putting stress into our bodies.
Exactly. And so when we focus less on that and focus more on the pleasure, food stops becoming the focus of our day. And instead, we can focus on the things that bring us joy and fun and let us be who we're meant to be in the world to provide that service and the gifts that we have to give to the world because we're not distracted by these other meaningless societal expectations.
I love that. So when you're talking about putting the joy into it, you're talking about the joy that we get from doing our activities rather than putting joy into our food and only eating things like ice cream and pizza, which would be great.
And we're still going to be eating the ice cream and the pizza. It's just that that's not what brings us joy because we've spent so much time filling our day with other joy that's like, ooh, right now, I just want to have a slice of pizza because it will just add to the day, not be the thing that brings us joy in that day.
So it's a mindset shift.
Completely.
Yes. Oh, no, I like that. Rather than focusing on a diet, I have to eat this, I can't eat that. We're focusing on like the real function of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not on the food at all. For a lot of us, it's just finding ways to refocus our attention to the things that we would rather be thinking about so that food becomes the thing that we think the least about. Where I know there have been so many times in my life where it's like I'm thinking about food from the minute I wake up in the morning until I go to bed at night.
Absolutely. I think that may be hardwired into us as a survival mechanism,
For
but
sure.
these days we don't need that survival mechanism, right?
Yep.
No, that's wonderful. How did you get into all of that?
I started with Healing Touch for Animals, which is the energy work. And when I was doing the energy work with animals, I was also practicing my skills of being an animal communicator. So it's really cool talking to animals.
Mhm.
And what I found was when I was working with my clients that the animals were basically like, I'm not really the one that needs the support here. Like, I got this. I can clear my own stuff out, but it's difficult because my person could use some support. So I kind of shifted from the animals into people, and I was already following Susan Hyatt, and I've taken nature-based coach training before, so I already had some coaching with like nature backgrounds, but I was like, I've spent so much time with nature and the animals. Let me find out how to work with people. So this was my coaching that helped show me how to work with the society that we're in, because as much as we don't want to live by the rules, we're in them. And so we just have to learn to live within them.
That's an excellent point. We're not going to get rid of the rules.
Not yet.
And then bucking all of the rules is inconvenient for many of us.
Yep.
Might as well learn to work within these parameters and within that paradigm
Yep.
in
Yep.
harmony.
In harmony.
I like.
And you can find freedom inside of this structure that feels so controlling.
So too, somebody gave me this analogy that has stuck with me ever since. It's like the best basketball players are so good because they've got a court that they work
Yeah.
with. If they're just out there and everything is basketball, they don't have the structure, they don't have the rules, they don't have the space to keep that in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I totally. And then animals, I have to say, I'm an animal communicator too. And
Excellent.
yeah, yeah. I do animal Reiki,
Yeah.
locally and at a distance. And it's mostly working with the people. Yeah, because the intelligence goes down the leash.
Totally.
But I have to ask, I'm sure a lot of people would want to know, why would animals need healing touch? Don't we touch them all the time?
Yeah. So, what I have found is I'm actually working with a dog right now that has brought into this world some lessons that it wanted to learn. So, just like people, we kind of come into the world with these lessons that our soul wants to learn while we're here.
Mhm.
And I don't find that that's often the case with animals, but occasionally it can be. And so sometimes just that a little bit of extra support helps to, clear their chakras and to make their lessons a little bit easier and a little more supported as they go through this life.
No, that is wonderful. That's a very good point. We often don't think of our animals as having their own souls and their own soul path, but they do. And
They
they
do.
evolve. They move up through the chain
Yeah.
for their connection.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I want to talk now about your project, this year-long hug. What did you call it? My year of hugs.
My year of hugs. Yes.
Wow. How did that come about? And what is it about? Tell me all the things.
All right. So I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time. It was in 2011. And really, I've given so many reasons why I started, and they're all valid. But the truth is that it just dropped. It just dropped. I was driving down the road one day and I'd been thinking about wanting to start a blog, and I'd been thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And as I was driving down the road, it was like I was thinking about like, what do I have to give? And this, like my inner knowing just kind of dropped in, well, you have love to give. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? come on.
That's nice, but show me the practical application.
Exactly. And then it just kind of dropped in like, well, you miss being able to hug your family because you don't live in Connecticut anymore. And I'm sure that if you're missing those hugs, then other people might be missing those hugs. And maybe you could go out and just start hugging people. And I was like, okay, well, that's something I could do. And so it's kind of, I'm sure you and many of the listeners of this podcast have had moments where this thing drops in and all of the details just kind of like snowball and they just start showing up. And you're like, okay, this didn't come from me because I couldn't come up with all of these ideas this fast that would work so seamlessly together. And by the end of the day, I had decided that I'm going to start this year of hugs and I was going to blog about it every night so that I could reach anybody that I wasn't physically hugging.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And this is an excellent point about we're missing hugs from people, right? Live up in part of my family lives up in northern Idaho. I'm here in Kansas City, and it's, I would love another hug from my sister or my
Yeah.
certainly my dad who's passed, but we all missing these hugs. And then I think of the LGBTQIA community. We're having Pride weekend this weekend in Kansas City starting tonight. And I plan to go up there with a sign that says free mom hugs because, people who do not have that connection of family, we can hug our friends, but it's not quite the same as that acceptance, total acceptance we might get from our family.
Yeah. And that was really the intention behind what I wanted to do. So I was going out and hugging everybody that I was encountering. So whether I'm like behind them in the grocery store line, or they're the cashier, or the post office worker, whoever it was that happened to be near me, I knew that I didn't know them, but I wanted to be able to share love and show them that they mattered in that moment, because the fact that they were in my space meant that they were impacting me. Even if the impact was like the teeny tiniest bit, they were there. And whether it's a smile or just their presence impacts me. And I was grateful for that. And so each hug was like this expression of gratitude for who they are in that space, even though I didn't know who they were. That doesn't matter. They were worthy of my love. And that's how I approached each hug. And I always asked permission because not everybody does love hugs. So there was like this boundary piece and gratitude.
How do you even broach that with a complete stranger in the checkout line at the grocery?
Awkwardly. But so this is like, this is one of my gifts, is that I've been awkward my whole life. So I just kind of leaned into that. And I would just kind of like look at them. Sometimes, if we weren't already striking up a conversation, sometimes it would be like, I know this is going to come across weird, but do you mind if I give you a hug? And most of the time, people would be like skeptical, but then, but it was awkward.
You mentioned the person at the post office, the worker at the post office, and the cashier at the grocery store. These people are behind desks and apparatuses. How do you approach that?
So it depends. Sometimes I would ask, and that would give them the opportunity to kind of like meet me, like where I was. And other times, if I felt like they were reserved, or if I felt like they had kind of a wall up, then I might inch closer. And then, hey, before I go, do you mind if I give you a hug? But then I'm already a little bit closer to them at that point. So I just kind of gauged it by each moment, what I thought it called for.
Love that. So the response, you said that often people would, say, this is weird, but yeah, sure. What kind of responses have you gotten?
Most of the time it was that, but a lot of times, like sometimes it was just this big, like, yes, oh my God. And like people that are like super excited about it. And then occasionally there was the no's. I had maybe like a handful of no's, and they were always super respectful, like, no, thank you, kind of response.
Yeah. Now, I have only recently come to find out that there are people who really do not want to be hugged.
Yeah.
What do you think the reasons are for that?
I think that everybody has their own reasons for being who they are. And that's not really for me to know or to judge. And it's part of that acceptance piece was like, okay, cool. I can respect that. And, a lot of times I would just put my hands on my heart and just kind of like beam the love anyway.
Be the love anyway. You can remember when we were in COVID, of course, we were encouraged not to touch people, but you could hug somebody with your eyes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we can do that with our energy too.
Yep, definitely.
Wow. And did you ever receive any like really negative, like, why are you doing this? Why are you asking me this? You're weird. Any of that?
Yes and no. There were definitely some people that were super skeptical, two that specifically come to mind. One was a cashier, and she just kind of like gave me the side eye and was like, but she still said yes. And she kind of gave me like one of the one-armed hugs,
I hug.
And most of the time, I would meet people where they were at. So if I got a one-armed hug, I'd leave it at the one-armed hug. But for whatever reason, this woman, when she gave me the one-armed hug, I could feel something there. And so I inched in a little bit closer, and then I wrapped my other arm around her. And the next thing I knew, she had wrapped both arms around me. And I just kind of stayed there and held her. And then I pulled away. And as I was walking away, she kind of turned away before I could see, like, she was clearly emotional. So I think sometimes it's just we're so hurt by things in life. And sometimes that makes it really difficult to be vulnerable.
That story makes me feeling emotional.
It was really beautiful. There were quite a few times I walked away with tears in my eyes.
Yeah. Well,
So,
sometimes we don't know that we need a hug.
yeah.
Then when you get a hug, you just kind of melt.
Exactly. Exactly. That was one of the things that I recognized over the year that I was doing it was that the practice brought people into the present moment. And almost every time I could feel the moment when they were brought into the present because their shoulders would drop and everything would soften. And it got me every time that happened.
It's hard to accept kindness from strangers for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that's why boundaries are important because you
Yeah.
never know. Did you learn anything about boundaries in this year of hugs?
Not during the year of hugs. I did not learn about boundaries during the year of hugs. Funny enough, I clearly already knew something about boundaries. The fact that I never hugged anyone, not even the very first person, without asking for a hug first.
Yeah.
That was innately like I knew the boundary was important for them. It wasn't until after so when my year was over, surprisingly, I ended up in a really deep depression. I found myself really unhappy, really depressed, and very just unhappy. Like my life was perfect on paper, and I couldn't understand why I felt so unhappy. And I spent the next 8 years kind of trying to figure that out, really going through all of the spiritual route. That's where I learned the healing touch for animals and trying to discover what was happening. And it wasn't until shortly before I did go on a second hug journey where I went cross country and I stayed with the people that I was hugging. Just before that is when I started to understand that I hadn't believed that I was deserving of the same boundaries that everybody else was, and that I wasn't offering that to myself. I didn't even know what that looked like.
Oh my goodness. I just have to ask, you said you went cross country and stayed with people you were hugging? I don't want to take too much of your time, but I would like to ask you a few simple favors. First of all, please rate, review, and share this podcast wherever you're listening. It sounds like a simple little thing, and it is, but it has a huge impact for us because it helps other people find us in the podcasting algorithms. I don't know how it works, but I do know that it helps a lot. Next, if you would subscribe or follow wherever you're listening, whether that's YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, wherever you're listening, just hit subscribe or follow, and that helps you and it helps us. It helps you because then you receive notifications when we have a new episode that's out. It helps us because, again, algorithm magic, I don't know what happens, but it helps. And then finally, you can support our podcast in a tangible way by going to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/podcast and then click on support the show. Now, we have a new feature too. We are now on Patreon. You can find us on Patreon. You can also find the link to Patreon when you go to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/podcast. So on Patreon for $3 a month or $5 a month, you can support your metaphysical and spiritual growth. You can learn about upcoming guests and you can get early and ad-free versions of the shows. So please support us. This podcast is free for you to listen, but we have costs and quite frankly, they come out of my pocket. So if you like this content, if you get a lot out of it, please see what you can do to give back. Thank you so much.
So I don't like to follow society's expectations of what we do in life. So I do really out there things. And I love that about myself. So as I was starting to write the book about the year of hugs, I had another drop in of like, you should do it again, only you should do it bigger and different because you didn't get to know the people the last time. So I used the power of social media. In about a month's time, I got enough people that I knew that knew enough people all around the country that they were willing to put me up for a night and host me, which meant feeding me dinner, giving me a place to sleep, and having conversations.
Oh my, that was very like fulfilling and magical and amazing, but also really scary.
Yes to both. Definitely. But more amazing and magical and excited, scary. Right? Because then I kind of set the intention at the beginning of the trip, like I'm still unhappy in my life. I know that there's more out there. I want to know what that more is. So I'm out there, with this intention of hugging people and connecting with people and doing that part. But internally, I'm looking to see what else is out there. What am I missing?
Yeah. What did you learn from all of that?
I learned how to create boundaries because I had a couple of situations, one in particular where a gentleman who was not completely sober violate my boundaries. But I didn't recognize it as a boundary violation because he didn't ever touch me. He was just sitting close to me. But what he did was he said a wildly inappropriate thing where it started out as a very kind thing. He was like, I just really love your smile. But the way he said it kind of sent chills down my spine. And I was like, thank you. And here I am out on this hug trip, right? So like, I've got to be kind to people or else am I going to be not, what was that?
It just kind of, if you're not kind to people, it just kind of falls apart.
Right. Like that's my role out here is to be sharing love. So I have to be kind and share love with this guy. That's all I was thinking about. Well, he inches in a teeny tiny bit closer to me and he goes, I really like your teeth. They turn me on. And at that point, I'm like, my body goes numb. I have my own baggage. So it triggers things inside of me. And I'm just like, I freeze. I have that nervous system dysregulation, like freeze. And my friend that I was with was like, that's enough. You've got to go. And she made him leave. It wasn't until maybe 24 hours later that like I just started crying uncontrollably. And I'm like, I don't even understand why I'm so upset. Like this guy didn't hurt me. He didn't do anything to me. I don't understand why I'm so upset. And I called one of my coach friends and she coached me through it. And one of the first things she said was, Melinda, he violated your boundaries. And I said, yeah, but he didn't even touch me. She's like, he knew what he was doing. He knew he made you uncomfortable and he did it again. He violated your boundaries. And when she said it like that, I just lost it because I didn't know that that's what boundaries could look like. I didn't know that I had the right to not be made uncomfortable by somebody else. I was just never taught that. I was always taught to people please and make sure that I'm making sure that I don't make the other person uncomfortable. I was never taught it was okay to say, no, you're not allowed to make me uncomfortable.
Wow. I mean, that's how grooming happens.
Yes, exactly.
It's not a
Exactly.
wholesale trampling of the boundaries. It's chipping
Yep.
away at them bit by bit by bit.
Yeah.
I bet you did learn a lot.
I learned so much and it wasn't just about like learning about the boundaries, but I witnessed the kindness of people in relationships and how they supported and showed up for each other in ways that I didn't have in my own life. And I was like, this is what I've been missing. This is what I think somewhere deep inside of me, I knew that I deserved, but I didn't even know it was possible. And I needed to come out here to see that it was possible for me. And so that whole process brought me to a place of discovering finally my own self love and worthiness.
Oh, that is so beautiful. You know, setting out, it sounded like your project, Year of Hugs, was for everyone else
Yeah.
to spread love and have them feel that acceptance. But it sounds like it turned out to be about you as
Yes.
well.
I would argue that it turned out to be more about me
Wow.
than it was even about the other people.
Oh, wow. Well, and you know, I don't know if you follow Matt Kahn, but I love that guy. And he says when you heal something in yourself, it extends to the people around you.
Yeah.
So that's not really being selfish to look
Yeah.
at it as healing me because that does affect others.
Absolutely. And what I've discovered, I talk about at the end of the book this path towards finding the self love and working on my boundaries. And what I found was that the more I was focused on my own self love and loving myself and knowing my worthiness, the more I was capable of one, being vulnerable. Like I didn't feel like I had to protect so much anymore. So I could show up more vulnerably in the relationships that I had that did matter. And so that like deepened those relationships. And I have so much greater love for humanity than I even had during that first original Year of Hugs because I love myself. As you're saying, like Matt Kahn says, by having the love for myself and doing that internal work, I feel like I have greater capacity for doing even more and loving even more in the world.
How do you feel your life has changed as a result?
Well, I got divorced.
Good for you.
Would be the very first thing that changed. And the other ways that it changed is that I walk through life with a joy now that I guess I felt like I didn't have access to before. That no matter what's happening in my world, no matter the chaos that's happening in my world, I am so grounded and centered and peaceful that there's this knowing, like almost the worst could happen. And there's this hope and joy that bubbles up from underneath anyway. And it's a really beautiful feeling because I don't know what's going to happen with my life. I don't know what's going to happen with my future, but I know that whatever it is, it's going to be magical.
That is fantastic. Now, you know, in your bio, you say you've got two teenage kids. And
Yes.
what has been your experience with them? Do they think mom is weird for doing this? Like, do they like it?
So it's really funny because when I started, my oldest was 4 and my youngest was 1. This is all they've known. So they're like, oh, okay, well, that's just mom. It's not even like, I'm like, well, what do you think about me doing this? What do you think about me writing the book? They're like, okay.
Oh my God. So you have these little kids, because 4 years old is still little.
Yes.
And so what'd you do with them while you had this year of hugs?
I had death grips on them. They were with me most of the time. So I taught them, my oldest especially, I would teach him to make sure that he always had like a hand on my shirt or on my pants and to always be gripping my body somewhere. And my 1-year-old was often in my arms or in the shopping cart or wherever. So, like, a lot of times I didn't even get to do the 2-armed hugs because he would be in the hug with us.
Everybody got a twofer.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That had to make the experience even more transformative, I would imagine. Well, I mean, with the 1-year-old, they're kind of getting a baby hug too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't always that way. I didn't always have them when I was out hugging people. But yeah, for sure. I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective. But yeah, the ones who did get, like, they did get a twofer.
And then your kids get a valuable lesson. What do you think they have gained from your journey?
Well, I could see that for my oldest, one of the things that I saw him gain was a little bit of confidence just in that time because he's super shy. He's very introverted. And I could see when I first got started a look in him. I don't have to hug these people too, do I? And I was like, no, you don't have to hug anybody. This is something mom is doing. This is all me. You only hug the people that you feel comfortable hugging. And there was this moment when I had been in a parking lot and it was about dusk time. So that time when the light gets a little bit beautiful, but also a little
dim.
Yeah. And so it kind of carries a different energy to it. And I saw this guy kind of like walking up and I was like, I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me for another hug. Like, please don't come over here. And he does. He walks over and he was looking for some change. And I was like, I get this burst of energy. I don't know where it comes from, even in the worst of days. And so, like, I got this burst of energy. I should say it was like a hit of energy. And I just looked at him and I said, you know what? I don't have any cash on me. I go, but I do have some hugs. Can I give you one of those? And so I give him this hug because he's like, yeah, sure. And so I give him this hug and I was like, thank you. And I've got a big smile on my face now, right? Like it just changes the energy. And so he starts to walk away and my oldest looks up at me and he goes, Mom. I was like, yeah, can I go hug that man? The mom in me was like, oh my God, do I let him? Like, oh my God, and I start panic. But the whole point of me being out here doing this is because everybody is worthy of love and belonging. I didn't feel anything from that guy that would alarm me. I'm here to protect him if anything were to happen. I just took a deep breath and I was like, yeah, honey, I think he would really like that. And so we walk over hand in hand to this guy. I'm holding onto Cooper's hand. I'm not letting go. And he looks up at the guy and he goes, can I give you a hug? And this guy like just gets this big smile on his face. And he was like, yeah. And he leans down and he gives my son this really, really sweet hug. And I'm trying not to cry, and I'm like, thank you. And I was just floored. I don't know what it was that made him ask that one time. It never happened again. It was just that one moment. And it was really beautiful. And so my hope is that they recognize the value, one, of boundaries, because I always ask them I was always protecting them and I was always asking for the hugs. But also when it feels safe and acceptable to do so, trust people. People are kind and good. 99% of the people are kind and good and loving if you just give them the chance.
And many others who are not just haven't been shown that acceptance. And which is why they don't have it to show.
Yeah. And sometimes those very people might show it in a moment where they're given the opportunity. Maybe the hug is just something that will take them one step closer to being the person that they want to be because somebody out there loves them and accepts them for who they are.
There is so much truth in that. Now, you told the story of the grocery store cashier who went out for the side hug and then embraced it. went it all in.
Yes.
Have you had any other transformational experiences? Anybody else just like completely shift in that moment?
So there was somebody that didn't shift in the moment, and it wasn't a complete transformational shift that I know of. Who knows what happened after the fact.
Right.
But on my first night on the cross country trip, I was staying at a friend's house. And what I didn't know is that she invited a whole bunch of people to her house. And so it was like a kickoff party. One of the people that she invited to her house was running late. She was like a latecomer. And this woman's wife was already there. And she was like, when my wife gets here, she goes, just make sure you give her a hug. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm here to do anyway. So, like, she wasn't the only one to say that. They were all like, make sure that you give her a hug. And I'm like, okay. So, when this woman showed up, I walked over to her and I was like, I've been told numerous times that I really need to give you a hug. And she was like, okay. And so, like, I gave her a hug, and the people that aren't into it, you can feel it. And like, I could feel distance in the hug, but she gave me the hug, and I was like, okay, I don't know what the big deal was. But we ended up around a fire pit later that night. And I was sitting next to this woman, and everybody else was talking. So she just kind of like nudges me, and she was like, what was that thing about the hug? What was that about? And I was like, oh, do you not know why I'm here? And she's
Oh.
like, no. So I told her about my year of hugs and how I've like decided to go out on this cross country trip. And I told her about what I was doing and why I was doing it. And she just looked at me and she goes, I'm really not into hugs. That hasn't changed. Like, I'm still not into hugs, but what you're doing, I can really get behind it. Like, it's really cool what you're doing. And I think it's really important. So just keep doing it. And I was like, thanks. All right.
Oh, I love that affirmation and that
Yeah,
validation. That
for
is,
sure.
wow. Switching gears just a little bit, I
Yeah.
have heard of studies that talk about the importance of hugs.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you speak to that? Have you looked at some of these studies?
I'd love to talk about it. It's actually something that I'm incorporating in a lot of my workshops and the talks that I'm doing now, because there is a physiological response after hugging someone for 20 seconds.
Hmm.
That's when the oxytocin kicks in. And if you've ever hugged someone for 20 seconds, it's a really long time.
I know it can seem like an eternity is like, oh my gosh, are we going to be doing this all day?
Yes. So I have been experimenting with that and really practicing that in my workshops and in my talks, where at the beginning, I will have everybody turn to, if it's a small group, I'll have them turn to somebody they don't know. If it's a larger group, then I'll just have them turn to whoever is next to them. I'll have them ask for a hug so that they have that permission piece. And then I tell them to hug the person for 20 seconds and that I keep track. And so I'll keep track for the 20 seconds. And usually about like 10 seconds in, there might be a little bit of talking, a little giggling. That's about the point where people start to get really uncomfortable because they're like, is this over yet? And then something super magical happens when you start getting into like 15 to 20 seconds. All of the talking ceases. Everybody stops giggling. And there's like this quiet calm that just kind of shows up. And you can just feel the energy in the room just kind of settle. And I'll say that the 20 seconds is up, and everybody just kind of like pulls away. And in that moment, there's so many different things, so many different reactions. Like some people just get super, super giddy. Other people just are like in the discomfort and they're staying in the discomfort. And then others are like crying because, as we mentioned before, sometimes you don't know how much you need it until you receive it.
Oh my gosh.
Very
I,
therapeutic.
I think it is. I think it
Yeah.
is. And the older I've gotten, I've realized there are times that you need that kind of therapeutic benefit, and other times I just need to be in my feels right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
When my daughter is upset, my daughter's 18 now. And whenever she's upset, I'll ask, do you need a hug or do you need me to back off?
Yep.
And I always appreciate that when I'm going through something and people ask, would
Yep.
you like a hug? And then sometimes I'm like, actually, no, not right now.
Yep.
Give me a minute and then I will. I've also heard that there are certain numbers of hugs that you need during a day. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, attributed to Virginia Satir. And you need 4 hugs a day for survival. You need, and 6 or 8 for, no, I'm going to butcher it. I don't remember it, but it is, you can look it up. It's Virginia Satir, Satiir, that says it. And it's an evolution of safety, growth, and then like expansion, kind of.
Oh,
I'm paraphrasing.
oh yeah, right. I'm looking this up
But
now.
okay, do it. Yes, please. And while you're looking it up, I do want to mention, I love that you were talking about asking in those hard moments, do you want a hug? Or no, I just need to be in my feels. The way that I have experienced like the moments when I want to be in my feels, a lot of times I'll notice I place my hand on my heart and it's almost like those are the moments I need to hug myself. That's like a hugging myself moment.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I am looking at, there's a lot of information here about this. This is fascinating. I probably should have looked this up before we started talking, but yeah, study on hugs. So I will look through the rest of this later, but just confirms that what we need. Also, I should mention that the very first hit was AI hugs.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I
I
think.
haven't done any research into that one.
No, I was surprised, but maybe
Yeah.
not too surprised because now that's the hot thing, but it seems counterintuitive.
I think I love the approach of just remaining open to it all, especially because, like, when we were going through COVID, right, so many people were really struggling with not having that physical connection. And I actually found not the opposite to be true. I would say it's like in addition. I found that the more I leaned into my vulnerability, on like calls with people, like over the Zoom calls or whatever I was doing, the more vulnerable that I was and the deeper that I could create a relationship because we couldn't physically hug, I found that I didn't miss them as much. It was almost like to connect with somebody vulnerably, hit on some of those same places that nurture me the same way that the hugs do. So you never know how things might change.
Yeah, you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and that
Yeah,
connection is a big part of it.
huge.
Well,
Yeah,
now we're experiencing this epidemic of loneliness, human
yeah.
loneliness. Many of us don't even talk to another person, much less get close enough for a hug. Wow, that says a lot.
And it makes me curious if this AI piece, like maybe there is something there that could support people that may not have it in other ways or that may feel too scared to be vulnerable with an actual real person. And I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I'm now thinking of that study where they gave a baby monkey kind of a stand-in mama.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder about that. Is the benefit we're getting from an AI hug just kind of a stand-in while we get real contact?
And it could be. And I think that, it's not a replacement, but sometimes we need those baby steps to be able to feel safe again with humanity, especially when we've been hurt so deeply by another human.
I wonder about that too. Probably this is going to sound really crass, but the reason we have sex dolls because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
London, we're missing that connection and that contact.
And that can feel like a safer
Yeah.
way to practice almost
Yeah.
being in that space again.
Interesting. Okay, this is fascinating. I saw your publicist email come through.
Yeah.
I get all these pitches and I'm just kind of like, oh, that could be cool, but not right now. And definitely not. It's like I've done that to death. I've done hundreds of those. But I saw your publicist email come through and I was like, that is cool. I want
Thanks.
to know about. You mentioned that you're doing some workshops and you're putting some things together. What do you have going on that you'd like to plug?
My book is available on Amazon, and my website is melindaleeschmidt.com.
And that is SCHMITT.
TT, yes. And that has my coaching programs in it. I have a 3-month and a 6-month coaching program, but I also am very interested in public speaking. So if anybody is out there and wants somebody to show up for a talk, I am happy to do that. And occasionally I will run workshops here in Atlanta.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put your link in the show notes, of course.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Is there anything we have not talked about that you think is helpful, useful, important?
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. I think maybe just the only thing would be that I invite everybody to get a teeny tiny bit uncomfortable and see how much more you may be able to give in your life, whether it's a hug or being a little bit more vulnerable with the people that you love, and see where it takes you. I think that you'll find that it brings you to a greater depth of life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Again, my guest has been Melinda Lee, and her book is Rebel Hugger. You can find it everywhere. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Christy.
Don't know what to watch next? Decisions. Well, we've got some suggestions. You can click this little video here and watch that. It's something that we think you're going to like. If you like the last one, you're going to like that one too. You can also click on the subscribe button. And if you do that, then you'll get notifications whenever we have a new video up. Win-win, right?